back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I am your host, Shenell Felix, and this morning we are back with much more conversation. I have in studio with me Mr. Xavier Edwards, who is the PRO of the Tobago Civil Net. Good morning, Xavier, and welcome.
Good morning, Shenell, and good morning to all our viewers.
Right, this morning we're talking about Tobago Remembrance Day celebration. Tell us a bit about what's happening as it pertains to that, dates, and what Tobagoans can look forward to.
Okay. Well, on Saturday, the 14th of June, we'll be honoring the legacy of those who came from Africa and built, and remembering those who perished along the journey. This is the fourth year it's being held. It will be held at James Park, Tobago, starting at 8 a.m. We'll have a short procession to some significant sites on the land here. And yeah, we'll have some interesting speakers to share that story with us as well.
Right. And, even as it pertains to Tobago's treasures and things that were brought from Africa, you hear a number of persons talk about things that were buried and are hidden. What type of conversations surrounding our indigenous African history and culture can we expect to come out of these type of conversations that will be happening on Remembrance Day at the James Park?
Well, we have three very notable speakers who will be sharing in detail some of those things for us. That will be Awo Olafin, who is the spiritual leader of the Ifa faith in Tobago, who will be well acquainted with those aspects of our legacy and our story. As you know, the Ifa faith stems out of Yoruba tradition, which comes from Nigeria and Benin, big up in a boy on time. And
right.
Also, we're going to have Mervyn O'Neill, who's going to be a speaker. He's a chemical engineer, but also an educator, and he is also an author. He wrote a book about historical breakdown of Tobago's history, as well as we will have Dr. Rita Pemberton as one of our speakers as well, who is a senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies in historical studies, especially African history studies, as well as a strong advocate for African self-awareness and reparatory justice. So all three of those speakers, I'm sure, will be able to share a lot of details about our African story and why it's important for us to know it and understand more about it.
And why do you think it's important for Tobagoans to want to come out and participate and not just hear, but to celebrate and collaborate?
I think it's important for us to come out because in a significant way, firstly, Tobago is 97% African descent. It's actually one of the most densely populated, when in terms of African numbers, in the whole Caribbean region. We didn't have as much of a mix of people coming from different continents as some of the other places, including Trinidad. So from that, within that context, I think it's important for us to understand some of those cultural and historical aspects. Moreover, a significant amount of us who came here or whose ancestors came here would have come from that very region, West Africa, Benin, Nigeria, where all our speakers will be sharing. They have an adept knowledge of those stories. And I think whether we're cognizant of things or not, it kind of come like when you're about to enter an insurance agreement. They're like, what is the history of disease in your family? Because that could help inform some of the things that could come up in the future. And I think a lack of understanding of those elements of our history has us blindsided by things that we face and confused by why sometimes we find challenges in integrating into a world that evolved without heavy input from us.
Right. And how do you think knowledge of self and history has helped, those that are currently in Africa to thrive, and how that same level of understanding and awareness of where we came from can help us as a society to also accelerate at the level that we're now seeing countries like Nigeria accelerating at when it comes to, developing in many different areas, especially when it comes to the arts. Absolutely. Talk to us a bit about that.
I think that need for connection and community that drives us to develop relationships, have friends, talk to each other. I think that need never leaves human beings. We're born with it and we continue to evolve through it. The spirit of of Africa and of our stories from all these various tribes still lives within us, and in many ways I try to remember that practicing and supporting those ideas and truths has been not only demonized and criticized but also illegal at different points throughout history. The inability to practice certain traditions, even something as simple as beating the drum, which we take for granted now. So in the sense of coming to understand your own journey and who you are as a person, which then will inform the way you operate, I think that will add value to all areas of arts, of culture, of social interaction, of business acumen, of religion, and connect us back to that genetic history that we carry in our veins, but we don't have a document to really give it in.
I mean, even in places like Nigeria, under the very same Yoruba tradition that you were highlighting, they still have the Oba, in every different state.
Absolutely.
So they still have those rulers and they still have their palace.
Yeah.
So you go there and you see all the Obas that has passed from before. You see all the traditions and you see, all some of their assets.
Absolutely.
You see their gold. You see, even in Benin, where, a lot of the Benin bronzes were taken to the UK. How important is it for us to now go beyond just a heritage festival, but to creating a culture of retaining, embracing, and trying to showcase that which has gone on to make us the people that we are?
So, first I would like to say that the Heritage Festival, I think, does play a role, and an important role, because that festival takes a snapshot of a short period in history, a short period in our African history as Caribbean people since we landed here. But it's important to remember that that part of the history was not something that was engaged in willingly by the Africans who came here. So it has a story of resilience in it, but it also has a significant story of hardship and downpression and oppression, and in many degrees, shame as well. And I think the lack of knowledge about the timeline in Africa before we arrived there, kidnapped unwillingly, and the love and the wealth and the engineering and the agricultural advancements that existed, and the advanced civilizations of people who did amazing things. I think that the disconnect is that we only teach this far, and that is what runs through the psyche of our people. And not everyone could take a story of hardship and turn it into strength. Some people sometimes would like to hear something nice about their story, something empowering about their story, something brave and courageous and glorious as well.
And with that also helps to empower today's youth to be more innovative. When they see that persons like themselves, or who look like them, or who have hair like them, were the actual inventors and architects behind a number of the technologies that we see today, and so that opens the conversation up to what can we invent in 2025? What can be invented, in 2026 and moving forward?
Absolutely.
It speaks to conversations pertaining to medicine and medical advancement that our people in Africa were able to tap into that were even stolen later on. I mean, but even as it pertains to Remembrance Day is aimed at taking a look back further than where the Tobago Heritage Festival often starts at, and to make persons aware that our history as Africans did not start when we got to Tobago, or to Trinidad and Tobago, or to the Caribbean, or when we got on the ship. or when we left Ghana and were taken. So just remind the people why it's so important to participate in this Remembrance Day celebration that's taking place this Saturday at James Park.
Well, I think it's important because it's your story. It's our story. The mind is creative, and what we fill our minds with, we express. And if our minds are filled with stories that aren't our stories, aren't written by us, and then we are creating a world that, doesn't really reflect all that we have and are. And so I think it's important for everyone who is in the least bit interested about understanding who they are, this beyond when we arrived in Tobago, and why we are different in so many ways, and connecting with like-minded people who share that feeling, to come to James Park at 8 a.m. on Saturday, 14th of June, and connect with our African.
Excellent. And, for the students who are also studying history, anthropology, and any other related fields, this may be in your best interest to attend.
Absolutely.
And, those persons who just enjoy hanging out with their counterparts, dressing in their, elegant African attire, and just coming out and paying homage to their ancestors, this might just be the thing for you. So, guys, we want to, again, encourage you to come out and be a part of that. And is there anything you want to say in closing as we wrap up our conversation this morning?
I would just like to say thanks to our sponsors, White Flower Content Studio, Alan Richards, Pancake House, Clayton Jackson, and remind everyone, just as a note when you come out, to please wear white or African print, as you said, and bring some fruits as an offering.
Okay, and then tell us a bit about the role of Hetepu Productions in the overall celebration.
Well, Hetepu Production has been doing this celebration and Remembrance Day for the last 4 years. This is the 4th year, and the 3 years basically by themselves. Sophia Giza, as well. I mean, she was supported, but Sophia Giza was coordinating this effort to bring that awareness to those on the ground here for the last 3 years. And this year, CivilNet would have collaborated with to support the effort, because we think it's important as well.
Excellent. We want to thank you and your CivilNet counterparts, as well as everyone over there, specifically Miss Sophia Giza from Hetepu Production, for putting on this celebration. Guys, we want to thank you so much for being a part of this morning's discussions. Thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing and continue to do to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. Again, I am Shenell Felix, and have a great day.